Right, another thing I do before we kick off these AI sessions is what's new in the world of AI, particularly ChatGPT, because things are changing at such an extraordinary rate right now. And so let me just pull up a few things in the last couple of weeks that have happened in the world of ChatGPT. And I focus on ChatGPT because that's the one that most people use. So this is from OpenAI's release notes. You can, if you go here, you can see all the things they've done. But in the last, I guess the most recent things that you might want to know about is on the 15th, 11 days ago, they made some changes to ChatGPT's, the GPT-5 model, and there's been a lot of criticisms about it, and so they're making some changes, one of which is they wanted to make the personality warmer and more familiar. Personally, I don't really get that, but anyway, that came out. And then if you're in India, they're launching ChatGPT Go. And then the most recent one is they've now introduced project-only memory. So if you use projects, then you can specify that you want particular projects to only memorize stuff within the confines of that particular project. Right, I won't go into that in more detail because today is a beginner's session. And so today's session, and remember, just a quick reminder, if you've got any questions, please do put the questions in the chat and I will be answering them. That, by the way, is the link to the AI community that Sarah's put in the chat. If you want to join that, remember, completely free, and it's a great community for asking me questions and learning from other like-minded people. Okay. And one more thing before I start. I do want to ask a question of you. We're going to go into, in a short while, practical, personal, non-business use cases of ChatGPT. So please, I'm going to cover dozens of them, but I want you to put in the comments, what is the thing that you love using ChatGPT for from a non-business point of view, from a personal point of view? What do you use ChatGPT for in your personal life? That way we'll all get inspired by everybody's, how they're using this amazing tool. Okay, I think we can start. So we're going to look at ChatGPT made easy in this session, and what we're going to look at in this session really is going to be broken down into two halves. The first half is let's have a look at what is ChatGPT. What are the features you need to be aware of? I'm going to keep this very much a beginner's guide to ChatGPT. So what are the things you need to be aware of? We're going to look at the free account. I'm going to show you amazing things you can do with a free account. And then we're going to spend the second half looking at real life use cases. We're going to keep away from business stuff. We normally talk about business use cases, but today I'm going to focus on some fun stuff, some highly practical stuff, things that I use it for frequently in my personal life, which make a huge difference. Right, so let's have a quick tour of ChatGPT and look at what you can do inside a free account. So I just need to pull up this is a free account. I've never actually used this one. I'm not on a free account. I created this one just for you. If you're listening to this on my podcast, then there is going to be some visual stuff here. You can always hop across to my YouTube channel and catch up if you want the visuals. So ChatGPT, here we are. This is what it looks like. And the way it's laid out is on the left-hand side, you have a little menu bar that you can open and close very easily. And what you will see on the left-hand menu bar is, in the main, you'll start to see your history of chats. You won't see it now because I've never used this account. You will see my used account in a short while. But that's what it looks like when you first go into it. You have the option to start a brand new chat. You can search your chats. You can see a library of images you've created. That's AI images you've created. We'll talk about that later. And you've also got Sora, which is video creation. If you're on the free account, it's highly limited. And also there's GPTs, custom GPTs, but on a free account, you cannot create your own. You can only get them from the store. So I'm not going to really talk about GPTs and Sora. They're not really beginner use cases. Let me now just close the sidebar. The main screen, what you have is right in the middle. It says ask anything, and that's where you ask it whatever you want it to do, and we'll look at lots of use cases. You'll see how to do that. If you don't like typing, you can hit the dictate button and you can record. Further to the right, we can use voice mode, which is pretty powerful. I prefer to use that on my iPhone. And then the plus icon gives you access to a whole bunch of tools. And there's some really powerful tools here. So we can add photos and files. We can drag in files and photos there. There's the study and learn. This came out in July. This is brand new. This is study mode. Study mode uses a Socratic style of questioning. So this is really useful if you want to learn something. I haven't used it because it's not my style of learning anyway, but this would be great if you want to learn a new topic. Probably better for people at university, for example. We can create images. We can get it to think longer using its advanced reasoning. We'll look at that later. There's deep research. You only have, as you can perhaps see as you hover over, 4 uses of it a month. So on the free account, there's some limitations. But the great thing about the free account, you also have web search, canvas, and a few connectors. So there's still, Sam Altman was saying that with the free account, he wants people to still get access to almost all of the key tools, even if it's limited usage. So there's some great stuff that you can do, and we'll talk about how you might use those tools. And then you have your settings, and the settings has now been moved back down to the bottom left. And if you are new to ChatGPT, you would certainly want to check out the settings. Let me take you through some of them. So customizing ChatGPT is where you can create your custom instructions. This is where you can tell it how you want it to respond. This is where you can tell it something about you. I think this is really useful, but I'd also say it's for intermediate users. If you are a complete beginner, I wouldn't start here straight away. But if you're starting to use it more, I love it. It's a great feature. That's under customization. If we go into settings, if I just go through very quickly, there's a few things that we can now set. For example, the accent color. You can choose the color that your prompts come in as in a background, just to differentiate them from the responses you get. I don't get excited by that, but if you like color, then there you go. You might want to use that. Language is set to auto-detect. I would recommend that if you are English speaking, you select English. And part of the reason for that is because when I use the dictation mode on my phone, it then translates it into Welsh and gives me an answer in Welsh. And I have no idea why. I'm not the only person that's mentioned that. It's happened to thousands of people for some reason. So switching it to English hopefully fixes that. We'll see. So I recommend you set that. This is new. Show follow-up suggestions in chat. If you turn that on, whenever you get a response, it will then give you some suggestions of what you might want it to do next. So if you're a beginner, I would recommend keeping that on. If it becomes annoying, just turn it off in here. So that's the general settings. You can specify notifications if you want to be told when, for example, it's done some research for you. We've got some connected apps which you might want to connect with. There's a lot more on the Plus and Teams accounts. They're rolling these out. This allows you to connect up to Google Drive, for example. And then there's data controls and security if you want to check those out. So there's a quick overview of your way around ChatGPT. I would certainly recommend checking out all the settings if you are new. Now, there are some limitations of the free account. Some of the key limitations are you only get 10 messages every 5 hours with GPT-5. GPT-5 is the brand new model that came out at the start of August. Once you've used up your 10 messages, it will automatically switch to GPT-5 Mini. Which is not quite so powerful. So you've got more limited use on a free account. But nevertheless, for many people, 10 messages every 5 hours is probably sufficient if you are fairly new to ChatGPT. If you want to use the advanced thinking, GPT-5 thinking, that's once per day. So not a lot of use on that. But from a personal point of view, there's not a huge amount of use cases for thinking. It's more if you're in business, I think. If you want to create images, you are restricted to 3 images per day on the free account. If you want to make use of memory, then it has a more lightweight memory. Memory is a feature that came out some months ago, which now memorizes things across your chats, which I find personally really, really useful because then it starts to learn things about you beyond the chat that you're in. And I'll give you some use cases from my point of view where I find it really useful. And there's also some limitations on voice mode. So the free account can do some amazing things. Most of the features you can use, but most of the features are limited in usage. If you are just a beginner, that may not be a problem whatsoever. Okay, and before we dive into the use cases, just a couple more things. If you are a complete beginner, then one of the things that ChatGPT does is it learns within a chat. So I always say, my tip is, when you are having a conversation with ChatGPT, think of it as a conversation with another person. From a business point of view, I would suggest you think of it as talking to your latest hire, your junior member of the team, where you're delegating stuff and asking questions. And so think of it as a conversation. Unlike a traditional Google search, we can ask it to do something and then we can follow up and carry on the chat. And one of the things that's great about ChatGPT is it remembers what happened earlier on in the chat. Even if you've turned memory off, it will remember inside the chat. And that's really powerful. But we do have to bear in mind there's a context window. In other words, it can only hold so much stuff in memory at a time. After a while, it forgets. And that's measured by what's called tokens. A token is essentially 0.7 of a word. We don't have to worry about that, other than the fact that if you have a really long chat, eventually you'll get to the point where the earlier parts of the chat will drop out of its memory. And you need to be aware of that, because sometimes we start a chat where the very first post that we make, the first prompt, has all the key context and details. And that's the stuff that if it gets forgotten, eventually we'll start seeing garbage coming out. So if we're having long chats that go on for a long time, the technique is every now and then just ask it to summarize what you've discussed so far and summarize the key issues, and then that stuff will be back up front of memory for the next several prompts. And then start a brand new chat every time you are going to start something completely different, a new project. And you'll find that before long, you will probably end up with lots and lots of chats, as you'll see with mine. So I'm going to switch across right now to my account. So if I go back to, here we go. This is my account. You will see firstly, I have some different features. All these things with the icons are custom GPTs. It's a powerful feature of the Plus and the Team Plan. And also there's some folders which are my projects. And then below that is my history of chat. And I must have hundreds and hundreds of chat messages going on. So a lot of stuff there in my mind. Let's talk about use cases. What can we use it for? And I'm going to focus on non-business. I talk about business stuff enough. There are many, many things we can use it for in our businesses, in our accounting firms, whether it's strategic planning, financial analysis, whether it's business advisory, marketing, content creation, creating SOPs, standard operating procedures. There are dozens and dozens of use cases from a business point of view. And sometimes people think it's just for business, but no, there are so many things from a personal point of view. And I would guess I use it every single day for business, but I probably use it every single day for personal use. There's always something I'm using it for. So let's have a look. Let's look at some things that we can do. And the first one I am going to show you, and just bear with me a second because I'm going to open the prompt up so I can show it to you. So one of the things that we can do, and one of the things that when it came out, I love this, it can understand images. We can feed it images into the chat, and many, many use cases, one of which is quite cool. Back in July of last month, I was about to leave Portugal for a couple of weeks to go and visit family in the UK, and the evening before leaving, as often happens when we leave for a vacation, there's food in the fridge. Some of that food is not going to last by the time we get back. And so what am I going to make with it? So what I did was I took a photograph I got the key things out of the fridge. I took a photograph with my iPhone. I did the whole this, by the way, on my phone. I took a photograph of the contents, and I said, make a list of all the food you can see. And so it went away and it listed everything. Now, I asked it to make a list first. This is a two-stage prompt. I asked it for a list because sometimes it does make a few mistakes, and in this case it did. It was 90% correct. It was extraordinary how it picked up things from I mean, if you look at this image, it's not that clear, but it picked up most things correct. I just had to correct a few things, and I had to say the tin mackerel is actually chickpeas and the rice is tabbouleh, and you missed the cream. In Portuguese, it's called nata para cozinhar. And so it gave me the chance to correct it. That's why I asked for a list of it. And this list, by the way, was created in something like 3 seconds. It's really that quick. So then what I said was, give me recipe ideas for dinner using as many ingredients as possible, and we must eat the chickpeas, because I love chickpeas, and I really didn't want, it was half a tin, it was opened, I did not want to waste chickpeas. So I asked it for recipe ideas, and it came up with a number of ideas: creamy chickpea and spinach skillet with crispy ham and tabbouleh, and it then gave me the step-by-step cooking instructions. And then I didn't actually understand how to cook one of the ingredients, so I took a photograph of it, because it's in Portuguese, so I took a photograph of the cooking instructions in Portuguese and said, I'm going to have couscous instead, translate the cooking instructions, and then it did that. And then when I got back from the UK, I decided to do the process again. Took a photograph of what was in the fridge, because we didn't have any food. Okay, we were down to the very basics now. When we got back from the UK, we'd not been shopping, so I took some stuff out the fridge and I said, give me some, identify the stuff there and give me a whole bunch of recipes. So that's a fun use case, but really practical. Take a photograph of your fridge and ask it to come up with meal ideas. Okay, second use case I want to share with you. Some of you, Steve, you will know this. I am a fan of beer. I love beer. I also love wine since I've been in Portugal, but I do love my beer. And sometime earlier this year, I was on vacation in Czechoslovakia. Which one? Czech Republic? Wherever Prague is, I always forget. Czech Republic, Slovakia. I was in Prague, and of course we went into this bar, and there was a whole array of beers, and I had no idea which one would be my favourite. So I then took a photograph, and then asked it to. I gave it a bit of my beer tastes and asked it then which one it would recommend, and the one it recommended was superb. So I now have a chat, which, if I just go to my sidebar, one of the things that I love is if you can't find your chats, then you can always just use the search. So if I typed in beer, it's going to come up with, hopefully, my beer prompt in a few seconds. It's not instant. For some reason, the search isn't, and it's a bit slow this time. There you go, beer. So, again, this is a great use case if you've got a camera. So you can see this is quite a long. What I do now is I use it every time I'm faced with beer. I don't know what it is. I just take a photograph, and it's now what happens is it builds up. It's starting to understand over time my preferences. In fact, just the other day we have a rooftop bar in Ericeira, and they have a happy hour, and they specialise in beer, and they have this chalkboard with all these beers on. It's hard to read it. I took a photograph and just said, which of these beers will I like? Give me the top 5 in order. And then it went through and said the top 5. Well, it got that one 100% right, because I love that beer. It's a Belgian beer. But I'd not had the second one, so that was the one I ordered. It's a German Weissbier. And at the end of it, what I then did, as I said, I've chosen number 2, and it's very nice. In other words, I wanted to make sure it knew that I liked that one. And it then recommended that I actually would probably like even more the Dunkel version. Well, I know I would, so now I'm on a mission to go and find that somewhere. So that's beer recommendations. Now, it might be you're not a beer drinker, but you could do the same idea with whether it's books or films. If you ever want recommendations for new films, new books, new music to listen to, start a chat called beer, books, wine, films, whatever it is that you like, and start to tell it what your current preferences are, and then ask for recommendations. And then afterwards, give it some feedback. I watched that film, I didn't like it because of this, and then it will update its memory within that chat to start to better identify what it is that you like. So that's getting recommendations. Okay, next one that's a really cool use case is travel planning. So I'm going to, I think I managed to find it quickly. These are scattered all over over the place. So I created a prompt for doing travel planning. And it's quite a long prompt, as you'll see. If you follow me regularly, you'll know that we do get better responses when we're more specific with our prompts, the more detailed that we give. Sometimes we can just do a quick prompt, but sometimes we will get a better result if we craft better prompts. And one of the things that I do is I have a library of prompts. We'll perhaps come back to this, but I have a prompt library. And if you're in the AI Academy, you've probably got access to this with dozens and dozens of prompts that I've created where you can just grab them and copy and paste them straight into ChatGPT. It's a huge time saver. And one of them is my travel planning prompt. Let me just read a few bits to you so I can explain a few things. So it starts off with role and objective. So you are to act as an expert travel agent specializing in personal itineraries with in-depth knowledge of cultural sites, accommodations, transportation, and authentic local experiences. One of the things we know from prompt engineering is give it a role to play and it will give a better result. And then I've got the instructions of what I want it to do. And I've got very detailed instructions, but I've put in here, I want a clear step-by-step plan for a number of days trip, destination for travelers, originating from origin, etc. These things here in curly brackets are variables. So I'm a big fan of creating systems, things that we can just reuse over and over again. When you have a prompt that you really like and you want to reuse it but for a different circumstance, then save that prompt somewhere and use variables. So think of these as placeholders. But if these were placeholders, then every time I'd have to search through this prompt and put in the destination here, I'd have to go through and find all the placeholders. What I do is I put them in curly brackets, and then at the end of the prompt, I have a section called variables. So all I would need to do is copy and paste this prompt and then just say how many days, 3 days, I'll go to Croatia, it's going to be me and Sarah. These are what we're interested in. We hate museums. I'm an outdoors person. We're flying from Lisbon, Portugal. Our budget's $5,000. So what it will do is it will take that information and it will just insert it into the appropriate places in the prompt. So I'm very specific with instructions, and then I give it some guidance as to the process I want it to go through, what I want it to create, the outline, and I want some feedback loops in here before it then delivers my final itinerary, and some guidance on the output format, and a few rules that it must obey. So very long prompt, but let's see what it does. So the first thing it does is it asks me for some more information, some quick questions. So it wants to know about what dates am I planning to go, things like what type of accommodation do I like. So I've asked it to check with me other things, and so I just did a quick answer. Which, by the way, if to save you typing, you can just hit on the dictate button and just dictate your answer. And so having done that, it planned my 3-day Croatia itinerary. It asked a few more questions to confirm. It had a couple of questions. Would I like to base it in Split or Dubrovnik? And is there any special experience I'd like to build in? And I said, yep, let's make it Split, but with a trip to Dubrovnik. And I'd love to do a island hopping boat trip as part of the trip. So it's now gone and built that into the 3-day itinerary. And then what it's going to do, because it's in the prompt, is it's going to ask if I approve of this itinerary. And if I say, yes, approved, I approve will do, it will now, as you'll see, in just a very short space of time, it should now create my finished itinerary. Now, it's taken a bit longer because since the start of August 2025, we now have ChatGPT 5, and ChatGPT 5, unless you specifically tell it otherwise by selecting the instant or the thinking, in this case it's choosing to do the thinking, and that means it may take 15, 20 seconds. What you find is that you'll get a better response if it thinks things through, but it does take a bit of time. If you want the answer straight away, it will just use the instant. And that's fine for most things. If you want to know what the capital of Italy is, just go with instant, or it should actually do that anyway, and just say Rome straight away. Okay, I might come back to this in a second because it's thinking longer than I thought. It's one of the new things we've got inside with this GPT-5. Right, next idea. Next thing that, as it's thinking, I love it for health and fitness. Some of you know I'm a health fitness freak. So what can we do with health and fitness? Well, there's lots of different, if you care about your health, lots of great things that we can do. So one of the things that I've done is I've given ChatGPT my medical records. I got those when I came to Portugal, my entire history of medical records, and it's a file something like that thick. And what I did is I've got them all as a PDF, series of PDF files, and I put them into ChatGPT. Now, I use a project for health and fitness. Let me just show you this very quickly as I go across to here. So I use a project for health and fitness. One of the things about having a project is you can pre-upload files like your medical history, and you can also set some custom instructions specifically for it. And that means every time you start a brand new chat inside a project, it will have access to those files. In my case, it has access to all my medical records. And also, it's really useful then for understanding test results. So for example, earlier on this year, I had a bit of a pain in my back, but it was a strange one. I don't get backache, and it moved around a bit, and I started to get just a little bit concerned. And I'm not the sort of person that goes to the doctors. I'm terrible, like most men. I put things off, but it felt a bit strange. So I thought, let me just go to the clinic down the road, which I've heard are really, really good. And they decided, amongst other things, to do a quick blood test. I went back, they emailed or WhatsApped the results to me, and everything was fine. And they gave me some anti-inflammatory pills within about 5 days. It had gone completely, never come back. But anyway, I had the blood test results, but they're all, A, they're in Portuguese, and B, even in English, I wouldn't have understood what the numbers meant. So I took a photograph of the blood test results, put it into ChatGPT, asked it to translate into English and explain. And it gave me this fantastic report explaining what the numbers meant and then giving me an interpretation on my health. And the good news was everything was fine. My bloods were perfectly okay. And so what I've then done is that blood test is also uploaded into ChatGPT, into that project, along with my medical records and many other pieces of data. So that's the first thing from a health point of view I find really useful. I can just give it data, I can give it test results and ask it to interpret. Then we can also use it for diagnosing issues. And one of the things that Sam Altman said is that ChatGPT 5 is a huge leap forward in its ability to diagnose medical issues. And before you start thinking, hang on a second, we shouldn't be self-diagnosing, we should use doctors, there was a famous research study done back at the end of 2024 where they found that the mistakes that doctors made with diagnosis was actually pretty scary. Doctors that used AI got a better hit rate with correct diagnosis, but AI on its own got much, much better results in terms of the number of times it correctly diagnosed issues. And part of the study was, well, why is AI on its own better than AI plus doctors? And they said that was probably because of bias that's crept in with the doctors. So personally, I love AI for giving me advice on medical issues. Now, one of the things about doing that is what AI is great at is exploring huge amounts of data. And so if you do want to use it for health and fitness, one of the things you want to do is give it as much data as possible. The more data it's got, the better the results you are going to get. And so in my case, I feed it so many different types of reports. Well, once you've done that, from a health and fitness point of view, you can ask it to create workout plans for you if you want to start working out. If you want to have diet plans, it will create complete diet plans for you. I think it's fantastic for that. And then let me just show you one other thing that I do because it'll illustrate another powerful feature of ChatGPT. I use it to track health metrics. And earlier this year, I bought some of these fancy scales. Perhaps you've seen them. They're scales where you stand on with bare feet and you also hold, there's some sensors and you hold them. And what it does is it doesn't just measure your weight, it measures your body mass composition. It measures things like the proportion of fats, the proportion of skeletal mass and muscle mass and so on. And what it produces, the one that we've got, is it produces these reports, which you can export as PNG files. Now, these reports, when I first looked at it, I thought, what on earth does all this mean? I've got all these measurements on my body. So what I do is every Friday before I do my gym session, Sarah and I both take our measurements from this. It takes a few seconds, stand on the scales, grab the report, grab the PNG, and then I import it into ChatGPT, into one of my health chats called body composition trend analysis. And I ask it to identify the most important measures from a health point of view. I asked it to explain them to me, and I also ask it to compare them to the previous ones. And as I upload one every Friday, it's building up the pattern of those measures. And so I find it fascinating, the health advice I get. Every week it tells me the trends in things like my fat mass, my visceral fat, my skeletal mass, which is particularly useful for me because I was diagnosed a few years ago with osteopenia. Being a cyclist, it's very common. And I've done a lot of things to counteract that now. And these reports tell me that my bone mass is pretty good. So, well, pretty normal. So we can take data like this, that could be a PNG image file, we can upload it to ChatGPT and it can read all the numbers. I think it's fascinating how it can read these numbers, analyze this and give us some useful feedback. And then if you are using a Plus account or a Teams account and you're using the new agent mode, we can go a step further. With agent mode, we can put a whole load of these into ChatGPT, and with the right prompt, we can then get it to analyze it all and take this unstructured data and create structured data by putting it into a CSV file. So I created this CSV file using ChatGPT where it took 10 weeks worth of measurements and created a huge file of data. And why might that be useful? Well, if you're an accountant in practice, how many times do you get data from clients that's completely unstructured, like weekly taking sheets, all handwritten? You can, with the right agent prompt, you can take that data and you can get it to structure it in a CSV file. Really powerful. Okay, so I've spent a bit of time on that just because I think health and safety is really important. Let's move on to another use case. I love it for product research. If ever I want to buy it, that what I used to do is I'd go to Amazon and look for reviews, or I'd go to Google and look for people who've reviewed things. But actually, there's a better way of doing it now, and that's using a feature called deep research. Or agent mode if you want, but if you want a free account still, you do have access to deep research. It's came out back in January 2025. It's one of the very, very best things that ChatGPT is good for. And so let me show you. I think is probably the easiest way of explaining this. And I just need to first just find the chat I did earlier. Here we go. So when you are doing deep research, there is one of the tools where it says add files and more called deep research. So you must turn deep research on to do this. And what I did, let me go back to my prompt. I use this many times for buying all sorts of things, whenever I want to buy something. And I've turned this into if you're in the AI Academy, I will share this prompt. I use this frequently. I've got a couple of variables, product and needs. If I just go to the end, I'm a cyclist, by the way. So imagine I want to buy a new road bike. That's what I want to buy. That's the product, but that could be anything, any product. You want to buy a fitness app, you want to buy a new washing machine, whatever it might well be. I just put in that under product. And then what do I need? Well, I want it for rides of between 50 and 100k kilometers. My budget's up to 5,000. I want drop handlebars. You can just give it some requirements. What are you looking for in this product? And this is what's great about deep research, is that unlike doing a Google search of people's reviews, it will look for things that meet your specific needs. What are you looking for in this project? In this product. I've bought all sorts of things this year. Everything I've bought as a result of the advice has been extraordinary. I bought a coffee machine, I've got a health app, a journaling app. I use it for so many things. Now, the one thing that's interesting about deep research, though, it works very different to anything else. The first thing it will do is ask some clarifying questions, which is great. So it asked me 5 questions, which I then answered. And then it goes and does the deep research. Now, at this stage, it goes off and it can spend, rather than about 3, 4, 5 seconds, it typically takes anywhere between 10 and 30 minutes. So go away and make a cup of tea, go and do something else, because it goes and analyses things in huge amounts of detail. Now, you could instead use within the tools, you could use the search option, web search. Web search is great. It'll search the internet. The shortfall of web search is it typically only looks at 5 different sites, and usually ones that appear high up on the list of Google. What deep research does is it goes much deeper. It searches more websites to find out exactly what's best for your needs. So that's why I would use deep research if I'm buying a product rather than a quick web search. I don't mind it taking me 10 minutes because this could save me a lot of pain buying the wrong thing. So what it does, in this case, it took 9 minutes. 9 minutes, and it did 52 searches with 20 sources. So it went to 20 different websites, 52 searches to do the report. And as it does it over the 9 minutes, it will talk through and show you what it's doing. I find it fascinating sometimes. You can see its thought process. You can see the sites it's visiting. And then the other great thing about deep research is it produces highly powerful reports for you. Now, the report, you can specify how you want it. So in the prompt, I say I want a summary of each product identified with a brief explanation together with pros and cons. I want a comparison table. I want the top 3 recommendations, and then I want a TLDR summary. So what it's done for me is it's just overview of what I'm looking for in terms of bikes, and then it's gone through, and for each one it's found, it gives me, you can see it's got given you all of the source it's gone to. You can always click through if you want to check it out. So I've got the Specialized Roubaix pros and cons. At this stage, Sarah's thinking, oh no, Mark's about to buy another bike. I might do. So the Trek domain, pros and cons, I've got the Canyon, and these I know cycling well. I know these are all great bikes. So it's giving me a whole bunch of different bikes that would meet my specific needs with the pros and cons. I then get this comparison table, and then it's going to give me the top 3 recommendations and why. And if I can't be bothered to read it, it'll just give me a quick TLDR summary. That's product research. If I ever buy anything, that's the prompt I use. I use deep research. Everything I've bought as a result of this year has been a great recommendation, saved me wasting time searching through sites and doing reviews and stuff. As long as you're happy to wait 9 minutes and go and make a cup of tea or something, I think it's awesome. Okay, next, really powerful use case from a fun point of view, from a personal point of view. Have you ever been to a foreign country where you don't know the language? Really, really good for translations and learning foreign languages. So let me just give you a very, very quick example. I'll give you 2 use cases. So firstly, Sarah and I live in Portugal, and one of the things I have is a project which is full of my Portuguese. So I have a prompt here called Portugal Daily. Here's the... our cleaner turned up today. I have this one. Walk me through a 4-minute daily conversation I can have with my cleaner when she arrives at my house, because I never know what to say to her. So here we go. Here's a conversation that I could have with her over 4 minutes. So I could say, Hola, bom dia, tudo bem? And she might respond, bom dia, tudo bem, obrigada e contigo. And I might say, também, tudo bem, obrigado. And it's giving me a highly practical 4-minute conversation for something that might be useful to me. So I might start talking to my cleaner now. So we can use it for learning foreign languages, and there's all sorts of different prompts you can use. You could get to do flashcards, all sorts of different ways of learning a different language. So that's awesome. And it's also awesome for translations. Very useful to me being in Portugal. If I get, for example, a tax document, I just scan it, photograph it, ask ChatGPT to translate it. If you ever go, let's imagine you go to Croatia and you go to a cafe or a bar or a restaurant and they give you a menu and it's all in Croatian. I'm guessing nobody here can speak Croatian. I certainly can't. All you need to do is grab your phone with ChatGPT, take a photograph of the menu and say, can you please translate this? And it will translate the entire menu into your language, English, I'm guessing. Or what I sometimes do, Just like my beer example, where it knows my beer tastes, rather than saying translate it, I might just simply say, here's a menu in Portuguese. Can you recommend what would be the top 3 things I'm likely to like? So rather than translating the whole menu, it'll say, what are the 3 things in English that I will probably like from the menu? So amazing use case. It's really good with anything to do with foreign currencies, foreign languages, whether it's learning those languages, whether it's getting translations of things. Another thing that's really cool, and I'm going to give you a quick tip here, and that is I do recommend that you put it on your phone, because your phone's with you all the time. The number of times I've used it when I'm out and about. I showed you earlier the beer one, where that was just a few days ago. I saw the happy hour board of beers, and I just took my photograph. So when you've got it on the phone, when it's on your phone, then in fact, if I just go to here, I think my beer one is here somewhere. Here's my beer one. So I just took a photograph of that board and then said, which of these beers will I like? Give me the top 5 in order. There's a little plus icon in the bottom left. When you click on the plus, you can take a photo, you can grab a photo from your photo library, and you've also got access to all of the tools. Having it on the phone is amazing, and also it's great because you've got both dictation and advanced voice mode. If you don't want to sit there typing on a phone, I hate typing on a phone, we can dictate instead. So I do recommend you have it on your phone. In fact, in my case, I have it on my iPhone. It's one of the 4 apps that's pinned to the bottom of every single screen because I use ChatGPT so much. So what else can you do with it? Well, you can convert handwritten notes to text. So if you've ever seen handwritten notes, scribbled notes, perhaps they're your notes, perhaps they are somebody else's notes, then just take a photograph. I had a post-it note of my to-do list that I was scribbling notes a little while ago, and so you could very quickly, you could just take a photograph with your phone and say, convert these handwritten notes to text, and it did it pretty well. There was just one small mistake. It misread FRP for Financial Reporting Pack as FPP, but other than that, that's my little to-do list turned into notes, and then it asked me if it wants me to then turn that into an action plan or something. So that's a use case. Handwritten notes into text, really useful. Let's do a couple more very quick ones. I could go on forever. There are so many practical use cases. I love it have you ever had a legal document to look at? Well, one of the things we can do is we can feed it a legal document and ask it to analyse it and tell us what are onerous clauses, unfair clauses, and we can ask it to act as a lawyer and give us advice. Linked to that, another one that's really powerful, let me just dig the prompt out, bear with me a second. I have one called one called Will Writer and one called Will Updater. So if you need to update your will, then rather than going to a lawyer, one of the things that you could do is just give ChatGPT a copy of your old will and then say, you're a will writing expert and legal document drafter, and what I want you to do is I want you to create a new will. And I've created a prompt for doing exactly that. I've just updated my will because it was very out of date, and it was done in just seconds just by feeding it the old will and asking it to rewrite it. What else is it really good for? Do things ever go wrong when you're at home? Things break and they need fixing. That can be really frustrating. So one of the things that I really love ChatGPT for is troubleshooting ideas. For example, we have a well under our driveway, which is really good, and we have a pump that pumps water into a huge, great big green tank that's in our pool room, and then the pump will then use that water for the pool, for the sprinkler system, for the outdoor taps, which means that our water bill every month is something crazy like 10, 15 euros. That's it, because a lot of our heavy usage, the outdoor stuff, is all from the well. The trouble is, it stopped working about a month or so ago. So I went to the pool room. I had no idea what this thing does. So I took a couple of photographs of, there was an error little reading, and it had all this sticker on the front of the control unit. And basically, I had no idea. I took the photographs and I went to ChatGPT and said, can you explain how my pump system works in the pool room? And it came back, and I don't know if I could, let me see if I can find it quickly, what it came up with. But it was amazing, the result it came back with. If I just go to here. So I fed it those photographs. I've gone too far because that's lots of other things that go wrong. Lots of things go wrong in my life. So this is a long chat. Where was it? Here you go. So I said, I need help with our water system. We have a well. And so I explained what the issue is. And it said, thanks for the images. You have this particular digital controller. It knows all about my controller. And then it went through and gave a clear explanation of all the numbers that were in Portuguese. And as it turned out, all that had happened is we'd had a power cut a while earlier, and so it crashed the system. It just needed a reboot. It was actually pretty simple, but I now have these full instructions for how the pump works in our house, which I think is extraordinary. And we've done that for so many things. When computers break, whatever goes wrong, we just give it to ChatGPT and say, help us diagnose this problem. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap up in a second, but let me just finish off with a few just quick tips for you. If you're a beginner, start simple, but use frequently. The more you use this tool, you will start to realize it can do some extraordinary things in your life to save you hours of time. The more you use it, the more you'll figure out some amazing stuff. I also recommend, though, that if you're using it for business use, if it's business use, do not use the free account. And don't use the Plus account, because there are privacy and security and client confidentiality issues. If you use it in your accounting firm, for example, and you wanted to analyze financial statements, you are going to be in breach of data protection laws if you are on the free and the Plus account. I won't go into more detail on that just now, but I will be explaining more in a few days. And I do recommend you learn a bit about prompt engineering. The more specific your prompts are, the better. The more context or background information, the better the results you'll get. If you're traveling a holiday, for example, tell it what sort of things you like. Do you like walking? Do you like museums? The more information you give, the better the result you'll get. And when you feed it examples, it'll help it to come up with better answers. Okay, if you found anything today valuable, please give me the thumbs up, the like if you found it valuable. Also, please, in the comments, what was the most useful use case? Which one are you going to start using? Let me know in the comments what's the best use case. I would love to know. Let me tell you about a couple of upcoming events. So on Thursday of this week, which is August the 28th, we have our AI and ChatGPT virtual summit, where Emily and I will be teaching more of this stuff for 3 hours, and we are currently still giving away some free tickets. If you want a free ticket, I'm going to ask Sarah to put the link into the chat. If you want to come along on Thursday and spend 3 more hours learning about AI, I can't wait to see you. We can go into more detail then. Of course, that will be business applications. My next live stream, September the 9th of September, and we'll be going to more advanced topic in the next live stream. I'll be looking at things like how we can get better results from the new GPT-5, because many people are struggling with it. We just have to figure out the better way of using it, and also how we can use the new agent mode. And also, if you want to learn some more about ChatGPT, I have a brand new YouTube channel, and I've just uploaded last week a couple of videos, and I'm going to ask Sarah if she would put the links to them. And so what are the videos? The first one is, if you are frustrated with ChatGPT 5 and it's not giving you the results you're expecting and you like the old models better, then in one of the videos I show you how to fix it. And if you are on a Plus or Teams account and you want to use agent mode, I've done a video showing you a powerful use case for agent mode. Sarah's going to put the links to both of those YouTube videos. It's a different channel, and I would really appreciate it if you could help me out by watching the videos, clicking the thumbs up, subscribing to that channel as well, and also perhaps commenting on the videos as well. That would be hugely helpful. So I will thank you in advance for that. And that's it. I'm going to answer questions now. But I can see that Sarah's put those links into the comments, so you should have those. And yes, if you're already a Value Pricing Academy member or AI Academy member, don't need to register for the event on Thursday. You'll get an invite anyway. Right, questions. I can see at least 2 questions. I'm just scrolling through for the QQs. Okay, so first question that came in, I believe, and by the way, welcome to Paul, who's new, been here for the first time. John. Hey, John, not seen you for a while. Good to see you. What ChatGPT plan level are you subscribed to? All of them, but that's because I teach it. So I just subscribed today to a free plan just because I wanted to show people what the free plan looks like. I'd forgotten what's in the free plan. But I use a Teams plan mainly because we use it in our business for everything. We're a team of 6. And we use the team plan because A, it's centralized billing, and secondly, because of the additional security around privacy and security and client confidentiality. Every business, I think, should use the team plan for that reason. So that's the one I use, the team plan, and it's a similar price to the plus plan, but you just get that extra protection around data, and you do have to have 2 seats. So if you're a solo practitioner, then it will be more expensive, the team plan. But if you want to use it for client work, unfortunately, you need it. Otherwise, you are in danger of breaching privacy and security. But I also, John, going back to your question, yes, I have a pro plan as well. The pro plan is the $200 a month one. The reason I have that primarily is because I need to know what's coming down the line, the new features. They always roll out new features to the pro users first, which means I can play with them, figure out whether they're good or not, and then when they are finally released, I can then teach you how to use them. Okay, another John. John still is here. Hi there, John. Are any of these prompts available to members? If yes, where? Thanks. Yeah, John, if you're a member of either the Value Pricing Academy or the AI Academy, then my prompts are in the prompt library. Not all the ones I've shown today, because a lot of them are just quick prompts I've done for personal use. But if you are an Academy member and you want the prompt, let me know and I will tidy them up and get them in there as soon as possible. There's some of the ones I did today, like the travel one, I will definitely add to the prompt library. For those who have no idea what John's talking about, this is the prompt library software that we created that, oops, wrong one, this button here. This is where I store all my prompts. And so the advantage of having a prompt library is you can find them really, really quickly. So if I went back to, let's say, legal document review, I can just click on it, I can copy the markdown of that, I can go to ChatGPT, I can start a brand new chat, I can paste it in there, and I scroll to the end, just answer the variables, in this case me, I'm the advising party, and then I'd just upload the legal agreement and hit send, and I've got my full legal advice on that agreement in just a matter of seconds. That's the power of having a prompt library, a place where you store your prompts. Okay, thank you for that question, John. We have 2 minutes left, and so Steve says, what is the best GPT package for non-business people? Steve, it really depends on how much you are going to use it. My advice would always be, for personal use, just start with a free plan, because you can do almost everything with the free plan, just limited usage. If you find with the free plan that you're starting to use it more and more and more, and you're getting frustrated that you can only do 1 deep research a day, or only one, and you're just getting frustrated by the limitations, then upgrade. And if you upgrade, I would recommend the Plus plan. You do not need a Teams plan for personal use, and you don't need the $200 a month Pro plan. The Plus plan is only $20 a month, and once you've started using it, I certainly recommend the Plus plan, because $20 a month, if you think about just that one idea of product research, I remember growing up in the UK that one of the things we often do is we subscribe to magazines very often for product reviews. And in the UK, one of the most popular magazines was called The Which magazine. People would subscribe to The Which magazine because it was full of product reviews. It was a very, I don't know if it still exists, but it was a very successful publication. People love to read product reviews. But why spend money on magazines for product reviews when you've got access to GPT, where you can customize them to the exact product and your needs that you want when you want? And I think it's worth the $20 a month. If you use that one prompt once a month, then this time it saves and the fact you're likely to get the product that you really want without making mistakes and spending money and wasting money, that would probably pay for itself, that one prompt alone. So I would recommend the Plus plan over the free plan any day, but it's a good place to start. And if I just go to, let me just go to, if you don't mind quickly, I usually finish at 5 on the hour, so I'm going to overrun by a couple of minutes if you don't mind, just because I want to show and answer one more question as well. If I go into the settings, it does, where is it? Yeah, in account, if you're on the free one, it's going to explain here what you get in the Plus account. So you get extended limits on GPT-5. Remember, you're limited to 10 in a 5-hour period. You will get advanced voice mode, although I think that's I think you get a version of that in the free plan. But you also get access to different models if you want. So if you don't like GPT-5, you can switch on the old models and use those. There are some use cases where you might want to use those. But I think the big things are, projects is my favorite feature. Because after a while, you're going to have lots of chats. And whilst the search helps you to find chats, projects allow you to organize them in folders. But they go beyond that. The projects are smart folders. What that means is you can create projects like health, and you can have project files like your health records. And that means that information is always available every time you start a new chat inside that project. I love projects. Custom GPTs are great as well. I would suggest they're probably better for business purposes, but there can still be some cool little use cases if you are if you want to explore those. But I think that for me, the projects and the extended limits is sufficient to upgrade to a Plus account. But start with free and see if you like it. Right, I'm going to make this the last question. Because John says, for sensitive information like your health stats, your personal finances and planning, again, would you just use the Plus plan? So things like your own personal stuff, you have to make a decision on that as to what extent do you trust Sam Altman and OpenAI. And this is the same decision and thought process you should go through when you use social media tools. People put all sorts of stuff on Facebook. I hate Facebook personally, but they share their entire life on Facebook. All that data has been stolen. Mark Zuckerberg has it for marketing purposes, but nevertheless, we know that and we still put all of our data into Facebook. So if you're a Facebook user, then why wouldn't you be happy using ChatGPT to its fullest extent by giving it details of things like health stuff? You do have to bear in mind that will sit on a server somewhere in the US, and do you trust OpenAI? That's entirely up to you. You have to look at the risks and rewards. But personally, the benefits it has on my life, I have no problem putting into my ChatGPT information about me, like my beer favorites, but also my health stuff as well. But don't do that with client data, because privacy and security and client confidentiality is much more important. If it's client data, you have to be aware of that. And I will probably talk about that more on the AI Virtual Summit on Thursday. Also, if you are in practice and are concerned about privacy and security, I did a live stream on that very issue about 2 weeks ago. So if you go to the YouTube channel, you'll find a live stream about privacy and security. Right, thank you so much for listening. I've gone 4 minutes over. I am really sorry. If you're new, just so you know, what I now do is I'll play out some music for 3 or 4 minutes. Gives me a chance to read your wonderful comments. And if you want to keep the comments coming through, I will put them on the screen. And if you are new, the music, you'll get an insight into my life in Portugal. Anyway, I will see you next, hopefully Thursday, on the AI and ChatGPT Virtual Summit, or on my next live stream, September the 9th. Bye for now.